Good morning, you guys. Let me start this off by saying I believe in you. I know it can be hard during COVID to feel like everything's together because everything's like falling apart. The world is falling apart, but I believe in you and I'm here for you and I am here to help you. So please um, try to get all your assignments done. As long as they're done before Friday, you'll be fine. But like try to get them done by like Wednesday so I can put in all the grades and whatnot. But I believe in you and you're doing a good job. I know this is hard, but I'm here for you and I'm for you and I'm here to support you. So today we're going to be reviewing for the exam tomorrow. Woohoo! Watch this before you take your test. So, yes. Yay. Welcome, you guys. So, like I said, I believe in you. Now it's time to start our review. So, first things we learned were the 4 regions of Texas. We live in the coastal plains, and then we have the north central plains, which is like Fort Worth, Abilene area. Then we have the Great Plains, which is where Lubbock is, a little colder, and yeah. And then we have the mountains and basins, which is very, very hot, very, very dry climate. And region is an area that is unified by one or more common characteristics. Make sure you know that, and make sure you know that the coastal plains has the most rain and the biggest population. So that's starting off with our 4 regions. Then make sure you know the 3 major rivers of Texas. We talked about the Red River, which is up north on the border, and then the Sabine River, which is by like Louisiana, the state right next to us. Then we have the Rio Grande, which is down south by Mexico. And then we have adaptation and modification. To adapt is like, let's say I went to Canada and it's really cold. So the way I would adapt is I would wear a big jacket because it's cold. And it's to change something about your needs to fit your surroundings. So if I went to the mountains and basins region over there by El Paso, I would be wearing a tank top with shorts because it's hot and there's a desert. So, and to modify is to change something about your surroundings to fit your need. So that is to change something. So like highways, parks, and it's to change something about your surroundings. It's not to change you. It's about what's around you. What can we change? Highways, NRG Stadium, schools, like all of those things are built, and that's to modify our surroundings. Then we have primary versus secondary sources. We talked about primary source is something that comes directly from the source. One example, Anne Frank's diary. She wrote it. It's a primary source. And then secondary source is something that comes from someone who is not directly the source. So like my Texas history textbook that I have right here is a secondary source because these people weren't there, but they wrote about the people that were there. So it's something coming from someone that's not directly the source. And then here are definitions you need to know. Region, we already talked about that. An area that is unified by one or more characteristics. Escarpment, and it is a steep slope or cliff. Nomad, we talked about this with the Native Americans, is someone who lives by traveling from place to place. Climate is a continuous weather pattern. And then plain is a large area of flat or nearly all flat land. So, yeah. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the Native Americans in Texas. Native Americans in Texas, that they each settled in different regions. So the Gulf coastal culture is, some examples of them are the Karankawas, Coyoatans, and the Atacapans. They were nomadic, they were hunters and gatherers, and they lived in the Gulf Coast. Their main source of food was fish. So remember that when you're talking about the Gulf Coast culture. And then there's the southeastern culture that is still it's still in the coastal plains region, but it's a little up. And the Caddos and the Wichita were members of the southeastern culture, and they were sedentary and they lived in one place. So that's the difference between the Gulf Coast culture down south. They were nomadic, they traveled, they didn't stay in one place. The ones in the southeastern traveled and moved around. And then we have the Jumanjos and the Tiguas were part of the Puebloan culture, which is in the mountains and basins region. They settled in mountains and basins region. So you need to know that for the exam, and that's a Puebloan culture. And then the plain culture, this is a big culture that depended a lot on the buffalo. They were nomadic, so they did travel from place to place. And the Comanche, Apache, and Kiowas are some of the Indian cultures in this region. And yeah, these are just some things you guys will need to know about the Native Americans that settled in early Texas. Um, they were the first ones here. The way they modified the environment was by like adopting or adapting to their environment, and they also modified it as well with irrigation and agriculture. So make sure you know this for the test. You'll be like probably you might be like asked to like label where each we're at. So make sure you take a good close look at this map. The Puebloans are in the mountains and basin region. The plains are in the Great Plains region. Southeastern and the Gulf Coast are in the coastal plain region. But the difference between those two is that Gulf Coast down south is nomadic, and then the southeastern were not nomadic, and they stayed in one place and they were sedentary. So let's go.